Good afternoon, students. This morning I want to go over a few things based off of your Edpuzzle answers from the moon phase video. So I want to kind of show you real quick how we get moon phases and things like that. Remember, phases of the moon are ways in which we see the moon based on the moon's location in its revolution around the Earth. So on this drawing, this is a drawing I normally do in your notebooks, your science notebooks. I'm just going to do this today. So again, we need our sun to begin. Okay, so we need our sun here. This will be our sun. So remember, the Earth goes around the sun once every 365 days. So I'm just going to draw the Earth here. This is the Earth. I'm just going to put an E in it to show you that that is the Earth. And then if we think about moon phases, the moon really has 7 phases. So I'm going to draw the moon in 7 different locations here. Actually about 8 different locations around the Earth. Remember, the moon goes around the Earth once every month. So I'm just drawing it in different spots along its orbit. So I'm going to start with these 4 phases of the moon. I remember in that video it mentioned every sphere in space is half lit up. Okay, so I'm going to just draw a terminator line in all of these spheres and then shade the right side, the side away from the sun. Remember, the Earth has day and night every 24 hours. When it's nighttime, we're facing away from the sun. When it's daytime, we're facing towards the sun. So this is kind of like a bird's eye view looking straight down upon the whole Earth, Moon, Sun system. Every sphere is half lit up. The other side is dark, okay? And this really has a big indication on how we get moon phases. So we'll start with this phase. If you think about when we can see this phase, it's actually daytime. So one of your answers that a lot of people got wrong on the Edpuzzle was that the moon is always up at night, and that is incorrect. It's just as much up during the daytime as it is during the nighttime. The problem with the daytime, though, is we're looking at the sun and we can't really see the moon, especially in this phase. So during this phase, if we're on the Earth, we can only see it during the daytime, but really we can't see it because it's in line with the sun. And we call this a new moon phase. In this phase, if I were to draw it, how we'd see it on the Earth, okay, it's completely blacked out. We see the dark side of the moon, but we can't really see it, okay? So as we keep moving along in this cycle with the moon going around the Earth, okay, we see this from this, so right around, well, the Earth is spinning counterclockwise, remember? So we'd see this phase right around dawn in the morning. So if we're looking up and into midnight-ish, and then it kind of disappears. But if we're looking at this moon phase from the Earth, we're going to see the right side lit up. The left side is kind of gone. And this would be that half moon phase. So one of your questions on the Edpuzzle was, when does the moon create that 90-degree angle with the, what phase do we see when the Earth, Moon, and Sun create a 90-degree angle? This is what I'm talking about. We have the sun, the Earth, and the moon. So it kind of creates that 90-degree angle in the sky when we see it. So here we see the right side of the moon, and we call this a half moon, or more specifically, it's actually a first quarter moon. And we see the right side lit up. This is what we'd see from the Earth, okay? If we're looking from the Earth to here, we'd see that right side, and kind of put your face in that perspective here. We'd see that right side of the moon. Okay, and the other side is shaded dark. You can't see it. You could see maybe a little bit of it, but. And as we continue on with that cycle here, okay, now it's completely dark when we see this next moon phase, okay, because the sun is at our back, and if you look at where we would be at, it'd be complete darkness. It'd be at night. Okay, this is actually coming up on April 6th. This is called a full moon. Okay, and you're all kind of familiar with full moons with Halloween stories and things like that. We see the whole disk of the moon, okay? But remember, the moon is still dark on half of it, half the side, but we're just seeing that completely illuminated disk here. And as we keep moving along with our cycle, it's kind of, again, that 90-degree angle, but instead of the right side of the moon, now we're going to see, looking at the moon, we're going to see this left side lit up. So from the Earth, it's going to look a lot like this. This is our third quarter. So if we label these, down here we have, oops, third quarter. Down here we have first quarter. Over here we have full, and of course we have the new moon. Okay. And if you think about why we call it quarters, really the moon cycle is divided into quarters. This is kind of this is a 0 quarter, if you will, a new moon first quarter. We could call this a second quarter or halftime. It's a full moon. And then we have third quarter moon. And then as we continue on that cycle, this happens every month. Okay, this cycle, we go back to a new moon. But it gets more complicated than that because, again, we have moon phases in between the new and the quarters and the fulls. So again, that moon is always half lit up. Okay, so I'm going to draw that moon during these times. Okay, and this is kind of where we don't see exactly half, or we don't see completely full or nothing. Okay, so we'll start here. So again, if we kind of picture looking at this, we're going to see a little sliver on the right side of the moon. And because the moon is a sphere, it doesn't look like a little sliver, it looks like a crescent. This is your classic crescent moon. So from the Earth, we're going to see that right side lit up, but it's going to look like a little fingernail. Okay? And we call this a waxing crescent. Waxing means getting bigger in moon terms. Okay, so here, when we see that waxing crescent or the right side of the moon, we know that every night we're going to see more and more and more of the moon. Okay, so over here, if we look at this again, we'll see this mostly at night. We're going to see more of that right side, and we call this, it's not quite full, or it's more than half, less than full. We call this a waxing, it's kind of one of those goofy words, gibbous moons. Okay, so we're going to see a little bit more, much more, and then we're going to get to a full moon. Once we reach that full moon stage, now we're going to start to see less and less of the moon again. Okay, so if you kind of picture what we're going to see here, we're going to see the left side of the moon now, more than half, less than full. Okay, so the full left side, just a little bit of the right side. We're going to call this a waning. Waning means getting smaller. Waning gibbous. So if you've heard Mr. Van Thiel talk about science class in the last 5 minutes or so, he'd always refer to it as the waning 5 minutes of class. That's why, it's just getting smaller, we're getting less and less and less. Okay? So from the full moon, we go to a waning gibbous where we see less. Third quarter, we see much less. And the last stage before back to that new moon, again, we're going to see that little sliver of the left side. Okay, and this is called a waning, you guessed it, crescent. And then back to a new moon. So I just wanted to address those issues that we had on our Edpuzzle, and that one, the moon is not always up, only at night. It is up during the day. It depends on where it's at with its revolution around the Earth. And two, that moon phase always changes. It gets bigger all the way up to a full moon, and it gets smaller down there. So a couple terms you need to know if you look at some patterns here. On this side, when we start to see more and more, we see that waxing term. A lot of times this, instead of a first quarter, is called a waxing quarter, all the way to a full moon. And then on this side, we see that term waning. And again, instead of third quarter, if you want to remember this, this can sometimes be called the waning quarter. So I just wanted to refresh you on those leading up to our project that I'm going to introduce tomorrow in class. Hopefully you've logged into HMH and completed that assignment. That'll give you a lot of insight as to what the project's going to be about. The project's going to last a few days, so don't stress when you get the rubric tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to this project. It's kind of open-ended and gives you a chance to be creative. So thanks for listening, and have a fantastic day. Make sure you log on to Flipgrid and give Mrs. Shimmick a nice birthday message. All right, you guys take care.